was a very complex, brutal, disturbing crime scene.
One of Boone County's most horrific killings remains unsolved. It's 12 years later, but the detectives working the Stephenson case are leaving no stone unturned. In recent months, their investigation has led them even to Indiana to look at a possible connection to this highly publicized Delphi murders.
Yeah, Jessica Schmidt digs into these new developments in part one of this story from Cincinnati's Crime Vault.
Detective Coy Cox and his partner make up Boone County's cold case unit, yet they say the murder of Bill and Peggy Stephenson is far from cold. In fact, they've traveled to at least 14 other states to follow up on leads, including several trips to Delphi, Indiana. And they're pursuing potential breaks in the case using a DNA profile.
May 29th, 2011 was a sunny Sunday in the suburbs.
It was a spring day, like most around here in northern Kentucky.
But the day quickly turned dark after a gruesome discovery.
It was a very complex, brutal, disturbing crime scene.
Two people, both 74 years old, were found dead inside their Boone County home. A beloved husband and wife, Bill and Peggy Stephenson. A concerned family member found them when they didn't show up for church.
We think it was, a very quick surprise attack. There was some blunt force trauma.
Detective Coy Cox and his partner Tim Adams were sent to the scene. The house had been altered and the bodies were staged.
There were things that were done to their bodies that was horrific. They changed several things in the scene, which is really, really unusual for any murder scene anywhere in the country or in the world.
Whoever killed the couple did not take off right away.
There was quite a bit of time that the perpetrators, the killers, stayed in the residence or felt comfortable coming back to the scene.
In general, detectives believe that kind of behavior points to a suspect who knows the victims. And Bill and Peggy Stephenson were loved by many.
They were amazing people, good Christian people. They wanted to share their faith and their love with the community.
They've missed out on so much. They've missed out on weddings. They've missed out on 3 new great-grandbabies, graduations, like I said, weddings of the grandkids. All the grandkids are married.
That's Bill and Peggy's daughter, Beth Stephenson Victor. She describes her parents as devoted churchgoers, a couple who loved their big family. Peggy was the quiet one, an experienced and talented musician.
Played for many weddings, funerals, played for a couple of the grandkids' weddings. She loved to play the organ. She played the piano too.
Bill was the opposite, known as the life of the party. A man heavily involved in ministry, he shared his faith with truck drivers every Sunday at a truck stop in Florence.
They had a trailer out that they would open up during the week, and if truckers wanted to stop in and pray, they would pray with them.
That connection to the community became a possible lead for detectives Cox and Adams. Today, they handle the sheriff's cold case unit, but they're still investigating the Stephenson case. Over the years, they've interviewed a lot of truck drivers.
Early on in the investigation, we had information that someone had been at the truck stop looking for Bill pretty aggressively, banging on the door of the chapel, asking if anyone had seen Bill.
There are truckers they've ruled out, others still on their radar. They've also looked into Charles Stevie Stephenson, the nephew of Bill and Peggy. Detective Cox says they've even spoken to him recently. Stevie is locked up, spending life in prison for beating an Indiana woman to death with a skillet.
We feel pretty comfortable that that's in a good place. There is no final statement on there. It isn't that he's been cleared. But we have certainly vetted him in every way possible.
One of the largest developments in the case could still bring them the break they need to close it. Detective Cox says they have an unknown DNA profile.
We don't know who that DNA belongs to, and it was found at our crime scene.
It is complex, so genealogy isn't an option, at least right now. There is testing they can do to try to find a match, and that's something they're actively pursuing.
We're just still hopeful that they'll come up with the right evidence that they need, and a confession would be great. but we're still hopeful that they'll solve it.
More than a decade later, tips continue to come in. Detectives even traveled across state lines in recent weeks to see if what happened to the Stephensons has any connection to the murder of 2 young girls in Delphi.
We had received some information from an individual regarding the Delphi murders in Indiana, and they had said, for all of these reasons, we believe it may be the same person that was involved in the Stephenson case.
There's still much more to share, and part 2 will explain what detectives are doing now with that DNA profile, and will tell you exactly what led them to Delphi and what's happening now with that lead. Plus, Bill and Peggy's daughter shares more about the impact this tragedy has had on the family. Part 2 is at 10:30.
All right, here we are. Boy, this is going to be a good one. Otis B Dreds, as you see there. Got Bobby Trill, of course. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good today, brother.
Man,
Good.
we were talking before the show because we are going to talk about some Delphi. It's been all over. Now, if you've been paying attention to these cases, Delphi has been all over the news, court TV and such, pertaining to this 136-page memorandum, which I recently, just earlier, got my hands on. I haven't read through it. We do know some names that are in it, and we are not going to be the podcast that is going to not give you some of the names that are in it if you don't already know. It's out there. It's not like we're breaking the fucking law here.
No.
We know some really cool shit.
Yeah.
And man, you were breaking it down for us for me earlier, and I heard shit that I hadn't heard before. But let's start off talking about this Bob and Peggy Stephenson case that happened back in 2011, May 29th, I believe, 2011, and seemed to be a grandparents. They had a great grandchild. I mean, just your average, grandparents, really. Bob, he was a truck stop chaplain, I guess, for a better lack of terms. I've seen them because I worked on the road with my dad, and they have a trailer, and you can go in there, you can talk to the chaplain and whatnot. A good service that's what you like.
Right on.
Good afternoon, Kelly. Good afternoon, Tom.
Hey, y'all.
So, I mean, just your average person. This happened in, damn it.
It was in Kentucky.
It was in Kentucky, Boone County.
Yeah, right across the border.
Yeah, Boone County, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And, well, there was on the night in question, there was some, he was supposed to, the very next day, he was supposed to be at his service, and it was not like him to not show up for this service.
Right.
So I believe some family members went over, and they found a pretty gruesome sight.
Yeah.
Both of them happened to be were bludgeoned to death.
Yeah, and stabbed as well.
And stabbed. But how does that connect to Delphi?
Well, about a year ago, remember, it came all over the news that this sheriff there, or this detective there, was, he was getting together with the Delphi people because he
Cox.
said there was some,
Detective Cox,
there were some similarities.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there's some similarities. One being that the scene was staged. Meaning the bodies, and also items from around the house, which was very weird. They would take, said there was items that would, you would think would be in a bedroom, were out in the living room, and it just seemed very odd, very much out of character for this elderly couple, which they were both 74,
Yeah, they were
74 years old. So, very much out of character to have these things just placed. And that was the first thing that they noticed. This is a staged scene.
Yeah.
The welcome, Sherry. So they had a suspect, which happened to be their nephew. He had I guess, a little bit of a questionable past. But he was soon, let off the hook pretty much as a person of interest or, suspect. There was DNA. One of the differences between Delphi and the Stephenson case is there was DNA at the Stephenson, but they had nobody to match it to.
All right.
The whole codex, or codec or whatever it is, that whole system in place to, run people. He's, apparently whoever's this DNA is didn't have a record or whatnot. They couldn't find it. They couldn't find a match. So it's not cold. They just, it's unsolved right now. And as you mentioned, the detective on the case gets a hold of the people down in Delphi and says, hey, or over in Delphi, whatever. So they get a hold of them and they're like, hey, I think with some of the similarities, because they even mentioned that this looks like a ritualistic, murder scene,
With
the Stevenson.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things we've been hearing about Delphi.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Did you want to say something?
Oh no, I was just thinking, no, nothing.
No. So they have no body, but they do have similarities between these two cases.
It said that they have evidence that the killer stayed in the house for hours after and that some of the wounds inflicted on the body were hours later.
Were hours later after the bodies were, after he killed them. He had some more fun with them, I guess. There was I don't believe there was any, nothing sexual. He didn't do anything like that to the bodies that I'm aware of.
But if there was any symbolism in there or anything, it hasn't come out. Because like you said, it's not a cold case. It's an ongoing investigation. So they're being kind of close to the vest on this one, just like they were in the Delphi case.
Yeah, and the weapon, there was no weapon recovered. Which is also very similar to Delphi.
Yeah.
They did say Cox did, alert investigators that, hey, we may have, it's not only a person in interest of interest, but he's got an item.
Yeah.
And we think that this item may be, somehow linked to the Delphi case.
Yeah. Now it's been speculated that it might have been something that was taken from that house and that they know was taken from that house.
Right.
It's hard to say though.
Yeah.
It could have been the guy had the kind of weapon that they think was used in it. It's hard.
Yeah, because they won't release. Also, keeping that close to the vest, they won't release, what this item was that they sent down to Delphi. Sherry says they're still finding similarities in a lot of cases, seemingly done by famous serial killers like Bundy. She said, this shit makes me want to go to school for forensics.
Well, they go up to Delphi to talk to this guy. And they said the guy gave them a reasonable explanation as to why he would have that item, whatever the item was.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a bunch of people that have kind of been giving each other alibis and stuff in this. And I think they're really scratching their heads trying to put this all together. But there's some strangeness going on.
There really is. So I wanted to, you know, bring that up because, well, it's, you know, it's something that has been talked about in the past.
Hmm. Yeah.
Something else that was talked about back in 2017, 2018, um, was there were some people talking.
Yeah.
Remember this name, Elvis Fields. You can
Yeah.
find he's got an active Facebook right now.
Yeah.
It's a little bit how old is he? You said maybe about mid
Yeah.
50s or
Looks like he's
something.
about mid-50s. I think he
Yeah,
was
I
50
didn't check
years
that
old
out, but
back then.
I guess the you know, I'll give a brief introduction and then let you take it away because you apparently have looked into this guy way more than I have. Elvis Fields is one of the ones that is named in the defense memorandum. Um, he again, probably about mid 50s, it looks like, has a very low IQ. They say,
Yeah.
you know, around 68.
Mhm.
So, you know, mildly retarded, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, I don't know what that scale is, but he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. And I don't
Right.
say that to make fun of him in
No.
any way, but um he uh he said some interesting things to his sisters, and
Did.
his sisters also said some interesting things to the police back within a year
Yeah.
of this murder happening. Um, dive into it, man.
Well, he told one of his sisters that then this is the next day, by the way. And these two sisters
The
both
day
went
after the
the day after
murders.
the murders. Both of his sisters went to the police on their own, by the way, for this and to tell them that he said that he was going to be in a lot of trouble and he'd probably be going to prison because he was there when two girls were killed the day before, murdered. He told one of them that Abby was being a pain in the butt, and so to make her look like a devil at the end of it, he put devil horns in the form of sticks above her
Mhm.
head. This was not too long after the crime, but these
Right.
sisters went to the police because they heard his brother saying, or her brother saying this the next day. So
Yeah.
naturally, it flipped them out.
Yeah, very, very
And
so yeah, just to, you know, elaborate on that, they went to the
yeah,
police.
they
The
went to the
police did
police.
not come to them. They had no
Yeah.
idea who Elvis Fields was. They went to the police, which I think gives them a certain line of credibility.
Yeah. Telling them something about the scene that we didn't find out until just about a week ago.
Right.
You know, that nobody in the country should have known. But so that's really good information. That's why they clued in on this guy. But also his other sister had said that, well, I guess she told him pretty much the same story, you know, with some added things to it, you know. So the police went and I guess did check him out a little bit, but he had an alibi. You know, he didn't have a car or whatever. He was home that day or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
But his sister Mary, who was telling the story, she actually took a lie detector test and passed it when she was asked, "Did he really say this stuff?" Well, yeah, apparently he did, according to the lie detector. His other sister is Joy. She's been online here lately, you know, kind of sticking up for him and stuff, but nobody is denying it. I mean, there's been people going onto their Facebooks asking them questions, and they're not denying it that they went to the police and all that. I guess this stuff is on videotape, the police investigation and interrogation of these two. And they didn't have the nicest things to say about their brother, really. They kicked him out, I guess, not too long after this, you know, and then he started living on his own, but he was living with them at the time. He had actually told the police, this was in a police report. And when the police questioned him, they were talking to him about it. He went back and asked the police, if you find my spit on one of the victims and I can explain that spit away, would I still be in trouble?
That's just that, dude,
And
that blew my mind when you told me that,
yeah,
because that right there, I mean, why did they not really dive deep into this guy?
they should have. You know, like I said, they've been helping. There's been a couple of them who've been helping each other out with alibis, and his alibi didn't match up. From what I'm understanding here, has an alibi with another suspect as well.
Yeah.
And
Brad Holder?
no, No,
No.
it's the head of this supposed group or whatever it is.
Okay.
It's
So
Finlanders.
you're saying even with all this going on, this gang and these friends that he told his sister he finally has is in fact possibly this
Yeah.
Odinistic, cult,
Yeah.
group, whatever.
It's officially called, I think, the Vinlanders.
The
And
Vinlanders.
what it is it is like a white supremacist group, but it's mostly a religious, like Odinist group. That's what they revolve their lives around. That's why
Right.
you'll look at pictures of these guys' Facebook pages and stuff, and they have ruins on them, and they live a lot of their life for this. This is a group of people who get together and actually have meetings. They know each other well. They do little rituals. You can find the videos online doing rituals and stuff. And this is what they do.
Yeah.
They do take it kind of seriously.
Sure.
They get the tattoos put on them, the whole 9 yards.
Brad Holder.
And this Elvis Field guy also told his sister the day after the murders, he said, I have friends now and I'm in a gang. In other words, he was there to do an initiation for this
He was
gang.
getting initiated into
the
this. Yeah. And he said that there were 2 other people there. Did he mention there was 2 other people there?
In that day.
And what is your theory on that? Because I keep mentioning Brad Holder. If nobody knows who Brad Holder is, Brad is the father of one of Abby's little ex-boyfriends.
Yeah.
So, and I can't remember his name. I don't even know if his name is
Logan.
Logan
Holder. Yeah.
Logan Holder is Abby's ex-boyfriend. Now, you're kind of thinking that Brad's son was being initiated as well.
It's possible.
It's possible that could be the younger
sketch.
Younger sketch.
And this would be Brad Holder's oldest, not Logan. It would be his next one up, who was initiated a few months later into the Freemasons. And he's got pictures of that on there or whatnot. I believe it could be him, the second person. With all of this, I'm sure. It seems like if this is all legit and they really said these things, that he was there. Okay. And he just mentions 2 other people. He doesn't give names. But if I had to guess, I would say that would make the younger sketch look even more obvious that there was 2 people get initiated that day, is what they're saying.
A total of 3. And it's also being said by, certain people following this case that the guys down the hill are 2 different people. One person saying guys, the other person saying down the hill.
Yeah.
And some people say they have proof of that. They have sources. They've, looked at, voice technology, recognition technology, and that these are clearly 2 different people. They sound the same.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, man. At first ear, at first hear, I should say, it does sound like possibly the same guy. But it's also, they say, out of order.
Yeah.
That these tapes were spliced and that this can be proven, but the person, cannot really say much right now. So that may explain the 2 people. One of them said guys, one of them said down the hill.
And things could have been ready. If you have 3 or 4 people there, and he's saying he was there with 2 other people, somebody could have been down there already with stuff already set up and ready to go. You bring him down there. This guy watches the initiation stuff, so he could tell the rest of the group, look, I saw
a witness.
It happened. And they could be initiated. It seems like Elvis was really proud that he had some buddies finally or whatever, and said, I'm in a gang now. If that's the case, and this is what these documents are saying.
Yeah.
That's what makes this so odd. Is I would never thought that we'd be sitting here right now talking about this a couple years ago, but people on Reddit were talking about it a couple years ago. I pulled some stuff up. People were talking about these groups on Reddit a couple years ago.
You sent me a Reddit from 2 years ago. The timestamp says, and this is on one of the Delphi
subreddits.
Subreddits. It says, okay, I realize this post sounds like it's from Crazy Town, but hear me out. one of the Diary of a Mad Escort videos was a Jalen interview, the sister of KF's. Who's KF?
I can't remember. There's so many of them
KF's
here.
mistress. At some point in the video, the sister says something about a secret church. Has anyone heard any near unbelievable rumors about secret clubs, societies, or churches? Freemasons are very common. Rotary clubs are usually full of the upper crust, it says. And then we have to mention the nefarious KKK, which I don't, but so they were mentioning these, possible little secret clubs, secret societies. 2 years ago, people were digging into this.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff I would always click off on. I never read those ones back then because I wasn't taking any of that seriously, especially at the time when you had other suspects like Chadwell at the time and those kind of things. But it's weird looking back on it and seeing it. And it's also weird knowing that the Brad Holder in his pictures on Facebook is wearing a 33rd degree Mason apron with his son, who is
lambskin.
33rd degree out of 160 something thousand Freemasons in this world, only 4,000 of them have reached 33rd degree. It's a pretty big position.
It's an exclusive club.
It's a big enough position that, let's say you had a judge on the case who was also a Freemason. Well, he's not going to do that against his brother, and he might recuse himself, possibly.
Which did happen.
It surely did. Surely did. And there's also been, according to this documents that came out, that there's been a couple police officers investigating this case who were also killed.
Yeah, very, just
there's some scary stuff going on.
Sketchy things going on. Tell us a little bit about what you know as far as these cops' death and the word I need escapes me. The coincidence, I guess, of it all.
Yeah. I mean, it's a small place. Carroll County's pretty small. We live in a pretty large place here.
Sure.
We don't ever hear about that stuff happening.
Right.
Like they don't have good luck with cops in Delphi. They had a couple who died in car wrecks together by hitting a pole. They had another one who committed suicide while he was in a squad car. This was just back a couple years ago. He was just on squad. But they don't have any luck. But there was a couple who it says in these documents that were killed. I don't know, murdered, I would suppose. It says killed.
Right.
Then
killed.
They were both investigators on this Delphi case. Or they were both involved in it in some kind of way, whether it was people who were taking reports or something like that.
Were the deaths suspicious?
It seems like it. The way it's written in the reports, I can't find much on them. I looked up this morning as much as I could about Delphi cops and the Carroll County cops and dying and stuff. And the more prominent ones that came up were obviously the recent ones. Those ones I didn't really find, but they're written in the report and they give their names. So I'm assuming it's legit if it's in the report that these two did die and they were young.
And anytime I think that especially in a high profile case, that if you have anybody involved in the case all of a sudden dropping, that's going to raise at least one red flag until you find out whether or not there's reason to be suspicious, of their deaths.
Sure.
So that's probably why that was put in there. Like, hey, maybe there's some, other people working here.
It goes right along with the guards who were supposedly working with Richard Allen, who were wearing the patches, the Odin patches and things like that.
Which I didn't think they could desecrate, a uniform in that position.
I guess Indiana has this thing with their freedom of religion where if it's a religious patch,
I
guess that you're able to wear.
Right. So they are allowed to put
they can't discriminate based on a religion,
Gotcha.
even if you put pictures of the devil on a patch, I guess. But from what I understand, they have been taken away. If that was the case at all, I'm just playing devil's advocate is what I want to do, because this is it seems weird that Richard Allen is in jail to me. And if this is true that Elvis Fields came out and said these things to his sisters, and he knew about the branches being put behind Abby's head
before any of us,
before
6 years before any of us
the
today
day after,
know. Yeah,
the day after
this happened.
That if you were to ask somebody, what do you think was at the scene, would you have said something like that the day after, just as a guess? He's describing something at the scene. Why is this guy still running free? I mean, he lives a couple 100 miles away, but they know that he knows these people. You know, that they would go and visit, that he would visit Delphi, and so they know this. It's weird. Are they that scared of whatever this group is my question, where a judge recuses himself, cops start dying.
Elvis, you know, basically, like Tanya mentioned in the chat, basically admitted he was there.
Yeah.
He knows little. To me, it seems even more odd that he would know something as what would seem trivial as how 2 sticks were laying by the victim's head. Not that, you know, slashed your throat or anything like that. 2 sticks.
Yeah.
Because she was being bad. She was being she was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So he made her look like a little devil because that's how she was acting.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a childlike mentality, as we mentioned, you know, which goes right along with his low IQ. And he is acting, you know, maybe childlike. She was being a pain in the butt. So I put little devil horns there and I spit on her.
Yeah.
You know, because she was giving him a hard time when he was trying to get into this club and finally get friends.
Yeah.
That is so plausible and makes so much sense.
And here's something else to keep in mind about it. The cops went to Elvis Fields because his sisters came to them.
Yeah.
This other guy who was supposedly with Elvis Fields, his girlfriend came to the police and said that there was bloody stuff on the car. We'll get to that.
Yes.
But Brad Holder came to the police's attention because of Abby's grandmother, who said, you might want to look into this guy. He's an Odinist and stuff. And what are the chances that all these investigators investigating all these guys come together and go, look, all these guys know each other.
They know each other.
This is coming from different places, but all these guys know each other. I think they had a pretty decent investigation going on.
They really did. Yeah, as Tanya mentioned, I'm guessing, you know, with the sticks, that is amazingly accurate. The odds of guessing that has to be a zillion to 1.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's one of those you're only gonna know a detail only a killer would know.
Yeah.
Of the crime scene.
And he said he spit on one of the girls. I would hate to come to find out that 6 years later they had DNA in this case and it was his the whole time knowing this and didn't get his DNA.
Yeah.
I would hate to think that that's the case.
You know, and I hate to say it, but it kind of looks that way.
It might be that way.
Let's talk about this bloody car.
Yeah. So the other guy, I can't remember his name, so I'm just going to call him the head guy.
He's
supposed to be the head guy of this group. He's in a lot of their pictures. You could see him in the ritual videos that Holder has on his Facebook page. I don't care to even point them out. They got the answer for it, I think. You know, because this is compelling and they're being called out and stuff by the state. So, hey, you might not explain yourself to everybody because now everybody knows about it. I'll call you out. I don't care.
Right.
You know, if you're innocent, that sucks. And sorry, but you know, what were we talking about? Because I went on a tangent.
The car and the bloody car.
The car. Well, this head guy, his girlfriend at the time went to the police.
And this is Brad?
No, this is the head guy.
I can't remember his name. The head guy's girlfriend.
I should have had my shit together and remember the guy's name, but you know.
Head guy. We got bridge guy. We got head guy.
Yeah, that guy, the head guy. Well,
his girlfriend
went to the police a couple days afterwards and said that she had let him borrow the car, supposedly to pick up Elvis guy. This guy lives in Delphi. Well, when she got the car back a day or so later, there was dry blood on the car, all over the car,
on the outside.
Yeah, and she didn't know about the murders and stuff for a day or two, so she went ahead and washed all that stuff off in the car wash. She just thought, you know, maybe something happened with an animal or whatever, but he never explained it away to her. And so she went and washed it off. She said it took several washings to wash this off. Okay. But after she heard about the murders and stuff, she put 2 and 2 together. She broke up with this guy. She went to the police and stuff, and gave him the story. So this is how this guy was connected. When these investigators went to him, and then they realized after that he knew both of these other guys who they were looking at too.
Yeah.
And so everything started coming together like that from different angles. They were coming in and closing in on one angle, which is, and they weren't just, there was a reason why there was 3 investigators on it. They weren't just pulling strings, man. They weren't just pulling stuff out of thin air. They were following where everything led, and it led to these guys who all know each other.
And that's interesting too. The blood, when you first told me about this, the blood on the outside of the car may and may not explain why, with their throats being slit, that there wasn't a lot of big pools of blood and more splatter, and
Right.
we can get rid of the spray by choking them first and then slitting their throats, which seems to almost be ritualistic, I guess.
Yeah.
That may explain why there wasn't any blood there at the scene. Did they do it on top of their car or something?
Or they could have been killed somewhere else. In this deposition that just came out, or this 136 pages, whatever it is, they mentioned in there that they thought that there was a possibility where the girls were hung by their feet and then drained of blood, possibly cutting the throat and maybe saving some of the blood for future ritualistic things. Where they come up with that, I don't know. There's a lot that hasn't come out yet. Maybe they know stuff that we don't know. And maybe it's just more than a gut feeling. Maybe they know that they took some blood somehow.
Yeah.
It is weird, but they could have been killed somewhere else. They could have been taken up to the car.
And something else that's interesting, about this with, Elvis Fields and, possibly one of Brad's sons, being initiated, and then the head guy there. There has been, as I mentioned, possibly 2 people. They say 2 people on these recordings. It's not the same person. Where does Richard Allen fit in? And we were kind of theorizing on, hey, and I, as I mentioned, I made a, I guess, kind of a joke years ago. It's like, yeah, man, Richard Allen's probably just, because we didn't know his name. Bridge guy is probably, what if he was just an innocent bystander? What if he was just actually walking on the bridge, getting out and hiking, because that was part of Richard Allen's character.
Yeah, he was a hiker. If you look back at all his pictures, he did it all the time. Has him at the Grand Canyon and going through like Utah, and him and his wife were hikers. That's what they did.
That's what they did.
It was the first nice day, after a long winter. Maybe he was just itching to get out, man. I got to go for a walk. It was right down the street from the house.
It was on it, and this happened on a Monday, so maybe his wife was at work. He was not. The kids, maybe they were in school, maybe they weren't, maybe, he just went for a walk. He has no priors. I mean, what, a speeding ticket, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, he has such a clean record. It doesn't really strike someone to, at the age of 40 somehow, he was in his 40s when this happened, just all of a sudden want to start. That just seems odd to me.
Yeah, what was the motive?
He also had daughters that were, or a daughter that was
close to their age.
A
little older, not much. And always a family dude. I'm being devil's advocate, because you don't want to have the wrong dude in there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if there's information pointing to other people, man, it's got to be at least be talked about. But who knows? As far as, does he know these people? Was he involved? I don't know. I don't know where Richard Allen comes into play.
I don't either.
Is he a possible patsy because they're so scared of this group or whatever?
How did he get involved? Does he know people? Or do these people know him? There are no connections that we know of between him and head guy, him and Brad, him and the girls.
And people have always
even electronical, digital, no connection.
No. And no. And people have always wondered about the Keegan Kline. We've wondered about Keegan Kline.
Yeah.
Where does he fit in?
Right.
He got a really harsh sentence for what he did, which is fine. I don't care. Screw him.
Sure. Right.
But what was going on with that guy? He was the last person to talk to him other than the family. What was going on with this dude?
He
was
said
supposed to
he
meet
was
him that day.
supposed to meet them that day.
Yeah.
He said that.
Why are there so many questions around this that just ain't being answered with Richard Allen himself?
Right.
What's going on is the question. And if Richard Allen did it, man, he deserves to be where he is.
Sure.
But with the evidence that he's got on him, why is somebody like Elvis Fields not being held as well?
I couldn't agree more. I got a couple comments I want to read, and then I want to talk about the gun, because that is the only connection with Richard Allen, is the unspent cartridge, unspent, shell at the scene. Kelly says, I watched a show on HBO Max from 2021 where the lead sheriff says they do have DNA from the Delphi scene, but he wouldn't elaborate more. And the only DNA I know of that they did take, that was said that they took, was the blood on the bark. And that's how they determined that was Libby's blood. Yeah. He just said they couldn't link it to anything yet. So to say if it is from the murdered. And then she mentions there's a show called Down the Hill. For anybody who wants to check it out. Tanya asked, why is the FBI not on this? The FBI was on this.
They were, yeah.
They were told that, hey, we got this. It's not really going anywhere with you being here. Take off, hoser.
Yeah, Sheriff Liggett, I think, got rid of them. What it is the FBI doesn't usually come in on state cases. They haven't crossed the border. It's not really a federal case. They're called in if they need somebody needs some special help from them. It does get kind of expensive for the community to have the FBI involved. If they ain't going anywhere, a lot of times
they got to get rid of them. Yeah,
and I guess that's what they're saying they did, but who knows? Who knows why they were sent away? There was a couple FBI agents that actually gave credibility to everything that we're saying right now, who were taken off the case.
Well, I've heard that the behavioral unit of the FBI did say that this looked like a ritualistic killing.
Yeah,
that this case did. Kelly also says, I don't think the bodies were there the night of the disappearance. I think they were placed there the next day, killed somewhere else. They had too many people searching that night, and it was a mile from the Monon High Bridge. The last known place.
Right.
Zero reason people didn't see them if they were there that night with the amount of people searching, in her opinion. I'd have to agree.
Okay.
She said she thinks their place there after the searching was called off that night or the next day.
That makes perfect sense, because we've talked a lot about them possibly be killed at the Mears barn. And that would make perfect sense for him to have it all over his car if his car was also parked in the Mears barn at the same time they were being killed. It would make perfect sense. Sure. I definitely.
Yeah. Tanya says, okay, well, if the cops are scared, you'd think they would want them. The FBI, that is. With the dead cops, you think they'd, give it another shot. And I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. If there is, reason to believe that those deaths were suspicious and, possibly because of the case, then, yeah, you should bring them in, man. You got an inside job going here.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Kelly says, there was a pagan holiday the next day on the 14th.
Yeah, the 13th is actually one as well. The 13th is a sacrificial day. I was looking that up as well.
So that's interesting. Here's another interesting point that will probably take us roughly around to the end of the show. But as I mentioned before we got into the comments, the only real piece of evidence that they have on Richard Allen is this unspent shell.
Yeah.
Now you dropped some gun knowledge on me.
Well,
I don't know a whole lot about, you know far more. So tell everybody what you told me earlier about the gun, the casing, the unspent.
I don't think it's really going to hold up as well as they think it will. The
Mhm.
person who wrote the report, in order for him to get the search warrant anyway, he even said that this is subjective, depending on the person looking at this stuff. And if you got the guy whose word that you're counting on to write the report, who's saying this is subjective,
Who examined
who
the
examined
the
this,
unspent shell, and
it's they're going to have an under defense just as many people saying, hey, look, if you rack 10 rounds out of this certain gun, look, there's a different mark. This one's deeper. It is subjective, because it's not a shot that actually came out of the barrel,
which could
or
have, like you said, a
the
little
grooves.
nick and make a
Yeah.
groove in the bullet
Yeah.
that's only specific to
To
that
that
gun.
gun.
Right.
This, I mean, they use on the 6 hours in any gun, they use the same kind of, what do they call that thing that kicks it out? The ejector rod.
Ejector rod.
They use those same sizes on all of those guns. And all it's going to take is and they've been making these guns since the late 80s, early 90s, and they make them every year, a new model, a new model, a new model, but they always use these ejector rods and stuff. And all it's going to take is for somebody to get on the stand and go, hey, look, I can make those same exact marks with my 6 hour right here.
Right.
And look how close it is. And they're all variable enough. Like if I eject 10 of them, they're all just different enough to make it very subjective. And that's what this guy's saying, that's going to be cut apart, and it'll probably actually be something that might even be thrown out at some point.
Because it is so, I mean, it can be, from any gun. And like you said, they've been making these guns since, the early 80s. So we're talking 40 plus years. And I think you mentioned they come out with new models, every year, every couple years. This is a popular gun.
Yeah, it's very popular.
And in the Midwest, it is popular to have a gun. I'm sure it's popular to have a gun anywhere, but we see a lot of that here in the Midwest. There's a lot of hunting, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan. So
a ton of cops wear these guns too. They use these same ones. And who's to say it didn't fall out of a cop's pocket when they were searching the scene? That's what they're saying. You can't have the dude writing your report saying, hey, by the way, this is very subjective, and giving it to the judge. And they went ahead and got a warrant on that, based on that. That might get cut apart in court. I don't think it's as strong as people personally think.
I'm glad that I think where this is going to come up next is with what you're talking about is this frank hearing is what they're calling this, basically what is really at stake here is the validity of the search, of the search warrant.
Yeah.
It is not how this happened, why this happened. They're very big points, but what this memorandum is doing is initially questioning the validity of the search. That that's verbiage is in there as well. And if you do put somebody on the stand that says, hey, this could be from my gun, then that means the search warrant was not legal.
That's right.
And then does he walk?
I would say so. I would say
because that's the only thing that they have connecting this guy.
Yeah. Besides the timeline, that's it. And then you got to believe that their timeline is right. And the thing is you got to do everything right. What if this guy is innocent? What if we look back a year from now and go, man, this guy just served 2 years in jail getting treated like shit, and his family was missing him and he missed his kids. Let's not go that route. If he's guilty, then find him guilty. But man, innocent until proven guilty, because there's a lot of evidence coming to light for these other people, man. And there's more on them, it seems like there is on him.
There really is. There really is. Welcome, Mr. Nanners. There really is. I mean, and in particular, Elvis Fields.
Yep.
I mean, when his sisters,
both of
both his sisters go to the police on their own, tell them, all right, look, this is what my brother told me. And then you have the head guy's ex-girlfriend coming and saying, look, this is what I got blood all over my car. I washed it off because I had no idea about these murders, but he did take my car and went to Delphi. And then all of a sudden, Richard Allen, a fucking CVS pharmacist with nothing more than a speeding ticket, a family man, is all of a sudden this horrible monster. When so many other people that have been talked to or should be talked to are very much more capable of pulling off this heinous murder. And yes,
absolutely.
Maybe there is some sort of a little, secret club, secret society, it does kind of, click in the conspiracy gears.
Yeah, it does.
But there's a lot to be looked at. And with a crime such as this, or really any, double homicide, just any murder, you have to look at all avenues, man. You can't, everything is on the table,
Don't half-ass it, man. Find out the truth of the truth.
Right.
No matter where it leads you, even if it makes you look stupid at first. Go find out the truth. And
Mr. Nanners is the most heinous people always appear, innocent. And that's very true.
That's true. Yeah.
That's very true. He says like BTK and absolutely, Bundy, classic example, charismatic, good looking.
Russell Williams, good example.
Russell Williams, was it Wilson?
Williams, I think.
Russell Wilson, the Air Force guy. Yeah. So I mean, it is, possible. We have talked in the past that, it's very possible that one person could do this. Because that was in question too. How could he, keep them under control? One person, two young girls. Well, he has a gun. He has a gun and you rack it. That's going to scare the shit out of a little 13, 14-year-old girl.
Get on the ground on your belly, tie both of their hands up, and then you're
done.
You're good to go.
I mean, that doesn't take a lot. As sick as that sounds,
it is,
but it doesn't take a lot. But there are so many things, people that they have talked to when somebody goes to the police and says, I have information, and the information I was given by my brother happens to be exactly what they found at the crime scene. Little minute, trivial little details like two sticks up by her head because she was the devil. He pretty much admits that he killed Abby.
And not to mention that guy who's saying that, or these sisters who are saying that about this guy, he's also 200 miles away, a friend of another guy that you're also investigating, who leads to another guy that you're also investigating.
All these people are linked together, but somehow one person who is not linked to any of them, the victims, anybody, is all of a sudden your madman.
So for the last 6 years, when they were asking people, call in any tips, they were getting a lot of them, and a lot of them pointed their fingers at these guys.
Exactly. And they did not apparently take the tips from the, sisters and the ex-girlfriend of the head guy. We call him the head guy of the, this,
can't remember his name.
Apparent, cult gang.
Can't remember what his name is, but I do know that people have pulled up his criminal history. And he's quite the violent guy. He's a pretty violent. Domestic violence is, imprisoning people, that kind of false imprisonment.
False imprisonment.
Yeah, that
So,
kind of thing.
yeah. So I mean,
he's not the greatest fellow.
right? It seems to be his MO. I
Yeah.
mean, it seems to be that this would be one of the guys that you would zero in on this Elvis guy who, you know, apparently, you know, who's has talked to his sisters about it. He was the way, you know, what he said almost sounds like he was kind of happy. Hey, I got friends now, because he is, you know, I guess you could say mild retarded. I don't know the IQ level, how they judge that, but he's only at a 68. Yeah. So, you know, probably doesn't have a lot of friends. He ain't the most popular guy in school.
Yeah.
You know, he ain't the most in school. He ain't the most popular, you know, guy at all. And so now he's happy. He just had to do a heinous, you know, brutal act to two innocent girls to get that companionship and friendship that he longed for.
If you want to see what kind of guy he is, just go to Elvis Field's Facebook page and look at his friends list.
It's live now. Yeah, his friends list consists. I didn't go through his friends list. You mentioned just a bunch of, you know, girls,
young girls.
They're all young
5,000 young. Girl.
Probably a lot AI bots,
yep,
you know, probably a lot of those. I'm sure there's, you know, a few real people and, you know, scattered amongst there. So it kind of, you know, gets you into, you know, how his mind works.
Yeah. And that's just the thing, you know, normally you wouldn't call somebody out or even say their name. But when you got thousands of people, man, going, hey, dude, do you have anything? It's time to fucking speak up for yourself, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
The police ain't going to do their job and everything's pointing at this way. Just explain yourself. Why did you say that? Did you say that? You know, just explain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's, to me, it would make sense, man. I'm a Reddit guy, and that's a lot of people are talking about these people. So, and I mean lots. So there's a lot of questions. People are on their Facebooks, you know, posting stuff, and I wouldn't do that. I would never go that far myself.
No.
I don't want to reach out to these people or nothing like that.
Right.
But there are people doing it, and they need to explain themselves. Why are they written in the police reports that way, if they are? And why is Richard Allen sitting in jail on some flimsy evidence, if it is that flimsy, that it's subjective, while a person that admits that they were there to two other people and gives you a description of the scene is not being investigated?
Exactly. An exact depiction of the crime scene that we now know of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that we have been privy to. With you know, you can watch it on Court TV. They'll show you how, and they even, you know, a lot of everybody who has seen the crime scene, you know, say, yeah, these things, they look like antlers or horns.
Yeah.
Horns is the words that he used. He's something, again, that trivial, not how the bodies were positioned, how two sticks were.
Spit on them too, he said.
Yeah.
And if they found spit at the scene and they didn't do a DNA, it's going to really piss a lot of people off.
Absolutely it is.
And rightfully so.
I mean, they didn't even take any of the, you know, the sticks that were on top of two murdered bodies. That should have been collected for evidence.
What if the spit was on those sticks? What if he missed and they didn't get those?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the greatest police work, and they seem a bit skittish in Delphi. I need to grow them a little bit of nut hair.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think.
No,
stop pussyfooting around with people, man. If it's silly, they keep coming out with these things and they're going, oh, we're going to put them back. We didn't mean for everybody to see that. They've done that twice now.
Yeah, they've done it twice.
Reports.
Yeah.
And what are you doing that for?
Why are you putting it out there and then sealing it again?
Yeah, don't mess with people.
It doesn't matter. I got the documents.
It almost seems like there's people that are in the police department shit that are doing this shit on purpose so that people can't see it because they know they can't get it out. It seems awful fishy to me. There's some bizarre shit going on.
Mr. Nanner says, what if the killer is a police officer?
Yeah, they might be covering. Maybe he is a Freemason. This dude, this Brad Holder's 33rd degree. That's it. They look up to that guy, man. They're not going to turn that dude in if they know anything about him. Plus, they'll protect him.
Mm-hmm. My first suspect was the sheriff, the little bald guy with the mustache. When I first started listening to this and getting into this case,
a lot of people talking about that
4 or 5 years ago, I was like, look, he's built the same way. The killer's the sheriff. Bridge guy's the sheriff. And what's interesting about that, Mr. Nanners, is that there are, and I haven't seen all the names, but I don't know. Do they? There are some in the. It's speculated that there are some in the police force, in the criminal law industry, I guess, COs, officers that are a part of either the Freemasons, probably not part of that 4,000 elite 33rd, but nonetheless.
And if not that, Vinlanders too. Anybody can look them up. They're a very well-known group.
Yeah, Vinlanders. That is the I guess the technical name for what everybody's calling Odinism.
That's their the Vinlanders are a supposed white supremacy group, but they spawned out of this Odinism stuff. This is the stuff that they worship. And you do have, just like Elvis was really proud to have friends and be in a gang like he told his sister, you do have to be initiated into that. And maybe that initiation is blood sacrifice.
Well, sure. I mean, hell, I mean, we've heard stories about that happening in LA with Bloods and Crips. I mean, you got to go out and do a drive-by or something. You got to kill somebody before we know you hard. You down for your set.
Yeah. That's how we know we can trust you, because we got something on you forever now.
Ever. Right.
Yeah. So we have to trust you.
Yeah. They got you by the short and curlies at that point.
Yeah.
Bobby Trill, any last words you want to add about this case? Any parting words?
Well, it's fun playing devil's advocate like that. I know that, and I don't know what is going on, and I don't know if it's Richard Allen. I don't know if he has anything to do with it. This has just turned into something really bizarre, and I'm not just going to absolutely trust what the defense is putting out there, obviously.
Sure,
but this is all pointing to different people who are all buddies and stuff, and man, it makes sense to me. I can look at these guys' pages and stuff and see what they're involved in, and it's enough to even make me question why is that one dude got pictures that go back before these murders that shows the sticks on the ground in those ruin positions and stuff. I mean, they really do this stuff, and it's something to take into consideration, man, because I would hate to see an innocent dude being put through this, and then the other people are out there the whole time going, "It's me." And they're not taking them seriously.
And then not taking them seriously, and we've joked about that. Well, he said he didn't do it, but now it's just the opposite. Yeah. Well, he said he did it. He couldn't have possibly done it. That's probably the biggest thing so far that really bugs me after hearing that is, you have somebody coming to you saying they had blood all over their car and this and that, and my brother said this and said that, and basically admitting to being there. He's got friends. He sees the girls, just everything. Yeah. But all Richard Allen has to say is, "Yeah, I was out there. I had a Carhartt jacket. They found his jacket. They found not one shred of DNA. Yeah, you would figure there would be some a transfer DNA if he was down there alone killing these people, or without anybody. There's gonna be some shred of transfer DNA, because you're gonna have to probably manhandle these girls, at least to tie them up or whatever. Not one shred of it.
They got a bullet and a timeline that they say he was there.
Yeah, that's it. And the unspent, bullet is
subjective, according
sketchy at best.
Subjective, according to the person who filed the report and put that in the report. The person who looked at that bullet himself said this is very subjective.
Yep. So
it's not going anywhere. That ain't.
That I don't think that's going to go anywhere either. Want to thank you guys for joining us and all the great comments in the chat. We always appreciate that, joining in on the discussion. Hey, we'll probably be back next week sometime.
It was fun.
It's always fun, Bobby Trill.
Interesting.
And hey, if you guys ever come across something with a particular case that we're talking about, whether it's Delphi, whether it's something else, hey man, you can DM me on Facebook and let me know. And we're obviously very interested in this. So hey, with that, Happy Monday to you.